Have you ever wanted to be a coach or consultant and move to Miami? Well, I did. And exactly at the time during COVID when the world was shutting down, my Make More Money podcast, I reached out to the coach of all coaches, really, Tim Storey, who's coached some of the main celebrities, been behind a lot of the biggest brands, and did a lot. His main life is really coaching and mentoring a lot of people, but from anybody. And he would help out anybody who would listen to him. And he's put out such a message that he's created world shakers, including myself. So this is Tim Storey, one of the most amazing men that I've met. I consider him a friend. I think a lot of people consider him friends because he always leads with kindness, and he really will shake up a stage, any stage you need. I highly encourage you to get Tim Storey at your events. He just has a God-given gift. And also he's a pastor too. He's pastoring a church during COVID when this podcast was taken during the time. Now, at the time, I had a dream to leave Connecticut, move to Miami where we are, to buy apartments and build a legacy. That was my whole dream, and do it through selling online digital courses. Well, we've done just that. We've done it for many different people, but you're going to hear a few key takeaways in this. I want you to listen to a point when I start bringing up some of the names he's worked up and how he handles it. It's something that it is amazing. Also, we're going to, in the middle of this podcast, we're going to have a sponsor cut in, okay? With the sponsor cut in, if you want to sponsor these podcasts coming up, because this is a sponsored podcast, we record it right down here at the Move Miami, just comment or below or DM me or text me to 786-828-9907 sponsor, and you can fill out an application to actually be on one of these episodes with one of these legends. We're featuring a few people when they're flying in here in Miami, coming out with a consulting day, maybe even attending one of our workshops. But without further ado, Tim Storey during a troubling time on how to get through and be the comeback and really just have one of your miracles happen by just believing in what God's given you. And this is just me being myself on it. So listen to this podcast on the Make More Money podcast with Tim Storey.
All right, it's Jeff J here to make your day. I am proud to bring you one of the person that I want to prove right in life. I've been through my whole life proving people wrong. My quarterback coach, who said I could never become a quarterback, did that. My lifeguard, the girl who I had a crush on, said I could be a lifeguard. I'm a horrible swimmer, did that. And also a teacher. And now I'm proving one person right, and it feels so much better. This guy, and I'm going to give him a pretty good intro, but you're going to hear about him in a second. He is an acclaimed author, a very inspiring speaker. Anytime he speaks, I actually, as much as I talk, I want to hear him speak. He's a life coach, which is crazy. The journey I'm in now I'm actually interviewing a lot of life coaches, and he helps create people like Robert Downey Jr. and Charlie Sheen. In their darkest times, he's been their comeback voice. But my dad's favorite guy, Smokey Robinson, said this about him. Tim Storey is wonderful at walking people through the best and worst of times. This is Tim Storey, and we are in the worst of times. It's Corona season, man. It's 2020. Tim, that was my little intro for you. Give someone 60 to 90 seconds about you.
Okay, the reason I was smiling is because I like your energy.
I hear that a lot, man. You know what? They used to try and medicate this down for me all the time before, you know?
I'm glad it didn't work.
Yeah, no, it hasn't.
So, I mean, obviously we're in a very, very serious time. I mean, very serious. And I mean, something we need to pay attention to. But we've had them before. There was World War II for Americans, Vietnam War, Korean War. We've been through a lot of racial unrest for years. A lot of things have gone on, but never has it been where it's hit every part of the globe. It's hit the whole world. So it's a serious, serious time. But in the amidst of the serious time, which I call a life interruption, what I'm finding is that people are becoming more sober as far as aware of what's taking place in their life. And a lot of people are resetting what's important to them and not important to them. And so in the midst of a lot of devastation, there's a lot of positive life lessons that I find people that are learning.
Yeah, I know, and I've noticed that too. And it's funny, when who you surround yourself with, you start to learn. And I'm pushing this out, this podcast, we're pushing out to people right now to give them a darker time. So even if they don't know who you are, any voice, and they're just stuck home, they can hear us. So I've been putting a lot of the money that the Lord has blessed me to make into getting a better message out there. So the one thing I want to say, so I gave you a little direction. I know we're in a time like this, I'm actually my one of my older brother's dreams was to have the best talk show, right? Now I got Dana White, I got Tim Story, I got you. I think Brian Cuban, Mark Cuban, we just did Elaine, we're doing Grant eventually. Certain people I want to do in person. It's funny when you actually attack something in life that you want. Like, so what I've been inspiring people to do is, hey, go for what you want right now, get true to yourself in everything. Can you speak to someone right now who's sitting home and maybe they have the idea of what they want to do, but they don't know how to go about getting
Yeah, I think number one is that when you're trying to figure out what to do, is that what you're supposed to do is in the inside of you. And so I believe that even while you're in your mother's womb, that God placed your destiny inside of you. And so what then happens is that destiny begins to grow and it begins to talk. So your destiny is like a baby, because babies grow and then they talk. And so what you are called to do is growing in you, and it's also talking. So your dream has a voice. And so what we need to do is we need to now listen to what's being said. So how do I do that? I got to stop, I got to look, and I have to listen. You got to stop, you got to look, you got to listen. So if you'll stop, look, and listen over a period of time, you'll start to say, man, this is wild. I don't know why, but I want to be a humanitarian. I don't know why, but I want to be an artist. I don't know why, but I want to work with animals. So whatever you're supposed to do in life is in you. And so you just need to stop, you need to look, you need to listen.
So before you became this guy who could really get people to stop, look, and listen, and really bring a lot of people back from the darkest time, and through the Lord and helping them out, I want people to, if they don't know about you, tell a little bit of your story and kind of where you grew up and your humble beginnings before you got to this point.
Well, I think that the thing for me is that we were in a lower income family, and so I didn't see a lot of success stories around me.
Right.
So the success stories that I saw were outside of my family. I'll give you an example. The first time I went to Disneyland when I was 8, and I saw this amazing place. Man, the streets were so clean, and they had all these amazing rides I'd never seen. They had a bear that could sing. They had It's a Small World After All. So what my little spirit did is it jumped. I find that when a true dreamer sees something that they know they're supposed to be like, their spirit jumps. So when I saw Disneyland, my spirit jumped. And it showed me that there was another side of life. And so there's 3 ways that we learn: education, observation, and conversation. So I began to educate myself by reading a lot of biographies and working hard in school. If I missed 3 days of school, my entire time from kindergarten to 12th grade, that would have been it. I never missed school. I was into school. So we learned from education, we learned from observation what we see, and we learned from conversation. So Disneyland was an observation that even though we were humble and cramped and crowded, I knew there was more, and I decided to go after that more.
So I'm already thinking you had a better grown up than me. I wasn't at Disneyland when I was 8. What they do? They screw up all the money to go to Disneyland? Is that where you were at? Because I know you didn't grow up from the most richest family, correct?
No, some people from my dad's job gave us the tickets.
Is that how that happened? Yeah, and you were close. So you grew up. Where did you grow up? You grew up there, right?
In Compton, California, Compton. But the great thing about Compton is Dr. Dre's from there, Kendrick Lamar, Venus, Serena. That's where I was born, in Compton.
Tim, sir, do you ever wear a Straight Outta Compton t-shirt?
I have a Compton sweatshirt that says Compton. And I'm into LA. I wear a lot of LA hats, yeah.
Because it's funny, me and you have just a really good connection. I know we're going to be whether or not we get raptured out of this thing or whatever happens, we'll be having a lot of conversations going forward. I used to teach behavioral middle school kids who grew up in bad Hartford thing. So the part of the reason they listen to this right now. So I want to talk to them because they're in the where they don't have like almost a chance, right? But they're dreamers. I used to coach or teach, actually. Say coach. I was a teacher, and after my brother passed away, I actually started teaching some Grant Cardone and money management. I had an elective class. The kid Nashawn, I'm going to give Nashawn, Jordan, and Kennedy were the 3 kids who paid attention. They all have greatness inside them. They were all dreaming. They all liked it. So that's part of the reason why I kind of will structure some of the questions to that. So someone bought you tickets. You saw Disneyland. Some of these kids been to Disney. They were there. It's lake compounds out here that they went to, right? And they started dreaming. So what's your word to someone who's so stuck in an environment? Because environment is huge. I mean, now we have the internet and everybody's stuck. Well, what's the best way to get into a better environment for them?
Yeah, the best way is now what you listen to and what you see. So they had what we did not have.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, we had like 3 channels. So now they got something called this. Look at this.
Yeah, I know. Right here. Yeah.
iPhone. So if they don't have one, their mother probably does. Or if their mother doesn't, their father does. Or if their father doesn't, their brother does or sister. So they can look at things that we couldn't look at before. So the reality is that through the power of the internet and the power of documentaries, movies, podcasts like yours, you can go into places, and spaces that we could not before. Because before we needed somebody to drive us somewhere, a bus to take us. But now from where you are, you can connect. And then another thing is that you don't have to know all your heroes. You can just study them. Like, for instance, right now, they're doing a big documentary on the life of Michael Jordan. I never knew Michael Jordan, but I'm learning a lot about him by just watching the documentary.
Yeah.
And so we have access to a lot that can stir us up, help us up, and wake us up. No doubt about it.
So I want to hear about, though, and because you're right, we can definitely, I was just listening to Tom Billio before you had on, and then actually your video came on right after YouTube which is crazy. I'm like, oh, I just tried to interview this guy. Who were some of your heroes that back then that you listened to? Like you said, you read a biography. Who was the first person you listened to that made you think a little bit different that you got into?
See, I think that it's important that we don't like highlight the same guys, male or female, for inspiration, for all our inspiration. Like if you see a lot of rookie speakers, they will say the same illustrations. They'll say, Abraham Lincoln tried many times and failed. And they're just like saying the same illustrations. And then you talk to most influencers, they talk about the same guys that they learned from. That's not how I am. I learn lessons from the UPS guy, if he's got something good to say. I learn lessons from a person who has a small little shop somewhere, but yet they're happy. I'll learn lessons from a surfer I'll meet in Hawaii. So when I think of life lessons, it's not all from this guy, this guy, this guy, that guy, this lady, they're billionaires. No, I'm learning life lessons from people who are human beings that got a revelation. Because a revelation will not always take you to having just a luxurious life. A revelation took Mother Teresa to change millions of people. So that's what I'm into. So I learned from everybody.
You have, so my foremost, and that's true, I'm kind of like that, but I've had foremost pillar people in my life that have taught me, and I'll tell them now. I'm going to do a YouTube video on them. But it's funny you say that. One of the first YouTube videos I did, I interviewed a homeless guy, and I spent time looking at him and listening to where he got where he was, because I could even learn from him. But So I totally get what you're saying there. You can learn from someone once you get grounded. But the people, Martin Luther King Jr., Tim Tebow, Grant Cardone, and Conor McGregor for marketing were the foremost people that I've taken so much out of on how they did it. You kind of fall in the Grant Cardone type thing. You don't have any. I get that, but you don't have any. Like, how important is like this word mentor? I almost hate the word mentor because I feel like we put it so much on somebody. I used to not use it for a while. But is a mentor important, or what's the most important for someone just trying to start?
Yeah, I think mentoring is important, and so you definitely need mentoring. Mentoring is even a biblical idea, which we would call discipleship. So Jesus himself mentored a disciple 12 men to do the works that he did. And his idea was that you will do the works I did and even greater. So I am known as a mentor and a discipler to many, many people. So mentoring is important. But what I'm saying is that you can't always judge a book by its cover. So just because a guy doesn't have all the outward, manifestations of success, he may be quietly brilliant. So I have people that speak into my life, and I get to be around the biggest names in the world of all walks of life. But that's not the thing that just turns me on. But once again, I can learn from the lady who owns local cleaners. And that's very important to know, because I think that people are missing life lessons by thinking they all have to get to the same person.
Okay, sorry to interrupt this podcast, but this podcast is a sponsored podcast, meaning you can have your own cut-in and sponsor here. Right now, we're taking time to tell you about our workshops that we put out here. Okay, we put out workshops every single month, Miami Meetup, signature dinners, connecting people with the right people for the right place, the right product. This month, it's Closer School, okay, with the launch of our school mastermind. We're actually going to inside here, and if we get too many people, we're going to bring it somewhere else. You can get a ticket below. Click the link below on our VIP funnel. If you're obviously in our circle, you get a discount, or if you're in the full mastermind, you can just head on down. It's in Miami. Every end of the month, we always put on one of these deals. We do Miami meetups. You can see all the events we're going to. So check them out. I would love to see you at one of the events that we going forward. We're going to be doing the next one on fitness, and then we're doing one on AI. So we're doing all these events coming up soon. This one's on closing, because sales change lives. So go grab a ticket below, and I hope to see you here November 30th. Or one of our other future workshops. All right. Also, if you want a sponsored spot here, or you want to record at the Move Miami podcast, let me know. We have a lot of people auditioning. Hey, can I be on your podcast? Can I come meet you? Well, we set up a whole deal where we have a day with me. We record you on the podcast, and you even get possible to join our mastermind if it's a good fit. So with all that, click the links below. You can check out under the sponsor tab. Enjoy the episode.
One thing I want to ask, though, and people have been asking me this just recently, and I don't even know, because I kind of think everybody's we're all born out of dust. We're all going to go away. We're all kind of figuring this out themselves. So people are, Jeff, how do you talk to these people or whatever? And now I'm about to ask you the same question. Like, you've coached or helped out some, who was it? Robert Downey Jr.
But you don't have to say the names, because I have over 300 entertainers.
Right. So you've been with Oprah, Robert Downey Jr., Charlie Sheen, right?
I mean, come on, though. But I still, but I hang out with plumbers, and I mean, so to me, people are people. Those are just some of the people that I work with, and some of them that I helped. So that's all great, and that's part of what's made me popular. But one reason I get to do that, which really, I don't know anybody else on the planet that has that kind of list. They may talk to a couple people, but not that kind of list for all these years.
Right.
There's a reason for that, because that's not where I put my priorities. My priority is in lifting up human beings from all walks of life. So I'm not moved by the shiny object.
No.
I've worked in Beverly Hills for 30 years. So if you work at Beverly Hills for 30 years, you're going to meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody that I can't get to.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm into. I'm into lifting up human beings who do all kinds of things.
Which is one thing I love about you is like kind of almost how humble you are. I saw Mike Searack give me a shout out about everything. And I remember the first time I saw you speak, that video you just saw, I will say, you know, you did bring up that. And I didn't know you worked with such names like that people knew before. I knew of you because that. But you just did it so humbly and humility. Where does the humility come from? Where you can just, although you've been around, and you're right, you've been in there, but where does that humility come from? Someone who has like a huge ego. Like right now, I used to have an ego. I used to not be proud of where I was, okay? But I got self-growth and I got better now. What's a good way to check someone's ego?
I think one thing is that ego, there's nothing wrong with ego.
Okay.
And that God does not kill your ego, he sanctifies it. Because I need your ego, because your ego could keep you alive. Your ego can keep you out of trouble. Your ego can keep you from, hey, I'm not going to stay stuck. But if the ego gets filled with pride, then you have to sanctify it or purify it, but don't kill it. And so I don't mind somebody that has swag. You know, when I go out and speak, there's a lot of young guys that come up and they say, I'm going to be greater than you. And I go, awesome. And so that's where they're coming from. And they think they can do it. And Scottie Pippen said that to Michael Jordan when he first came in the NBA. Now, he was wrong, but that's where he was coming from. So I don't mind the ego thing, but you got to sanctify it. Now, the humility, I'm not into false humility. So I don't like bow down and act with this false humility. But my thing is that I'm really good at what I do. Okay? But I'm not the best chef. I'm not the best salesman. I'm not the best basketball player. I'm not the best hockey player. But at what I do, pretty doggone good. But what I know is that to make the world go round, it's going to take more than me being good at what I do. Yeah. That's one reason that you feel what you feel from me, is that it does take a village. I'm a piece of the puzzle, but I am a vital piece, but I am a piece of the puzzle.
Well, when did you realize that you had such a gift to do that? When did you realize that was your skill to fall into it? Where was that?
When they started standing in line. You know, when you pull up and you're going to speak and the guys are in the parking lot going, oh my God, we've never seen crowds like this. And I'd see them, these lines of people everywhere. And I was speaking to 1,000, 2,000, then 3,000, then 10, then 20, then 30, then 40, then 50, then 80,000. I knew I might be onto something. And then when I had my first celebrity, then my 17th, then the 37th, then the 78th, then the 91st. And then I said, I might be onto something. So now that I'm onto something, now I need to keep the standard high. So I work super hard to keep the standard high. I mean, if you were to come into my office, you're going to see all these workbooks. And I've got about $70,000 worth of information here. You say, what do you mean 70,000? Because I pay people to help put together curriculum for me. I pay researchers, psychologists, psychiatrists. So I'm not just shooting from the hip ever. So like Jay-Z, you can see Jay-Z rap and you're like, oh, he's just shooting from the hip. No, he's been marinating on that stuff for years. And then it seems like he's just spitting it.
Well, that's the thing to me. I don't listen to music. I don't drink alcohol, and I don't chase girls. Right? I only focus because music and alcohol lead to girls. And in my 20s, I was good at making money, but I was spending it on all Spanish girls all the time. Right? So I'm more focused now. So just recently, I'm kind of having the thing too, where people are paying me to coach them. They're asking me questions. It's kind of getting a thing. They notice that I have something, and at that point there, and I mean that in the most, I almost feel the humility way possible. But I really don't want to let people down. I know it takes more than me. So I want to connect people. I've been pushing people, hey, go check out Tim's story, and then go check out these guys. Find the voice that then will lead you into it. So what's one And I want to ask you this too, because I'm not really good at this. I have a business partnership for a software that I'm involved in that's not producing cash flow right now. But what's a good relationship advice, business wise, because entrepreneur wise, we have to do business wise and maybe female wise too. For me
Okay,
going forward.
let's start first with business.
Yeah.
With business, build another person's dream first. Don't try to build yours. What you make happen for someone else, life will make happen for you.
Wow.
Too many people are thinking about being number one. Be super good at being number two. So let me tell you something that will blow you away. Some of the biggest songs in the world were never supposed to be big songs. They were what was called on the B side of the record, the old records.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
They had the A and the B side. If you were to Google famous B side records, you don't have to do it right now. You're going to find a plethora, which means a lot, of hits that were supposed to be B side. So everyone wants an A side, but be good at being the B side and work your B side like you would your A side, and you won't be the B side for long. So what I'm about is I build other people's dreams. I mean, this last 10X that Grant Cardone did, I went there. I was not announced that I was going to speak. I went there just to support my friend. So I was walking through and people were saying, hey, how come you're not speaking? Or you're not going to speak? Or, man, I can't believe they got Tim Storey here and he's not speaking. Didn't faze me one bit. I didn't go there to speak. I went there to support my friend. So then he asked me to speak. And so then I did, and turned out good. So my point is this: work somebody else's dream. And what you make happen for someone else, life will make happen for you. Don't think about yourself so much. Work somebody else's dream. And while you're working their dream, you're learning from their successes and from their challenges, and you're getting better at yours. And then if you do that, you'll reap what you sow, and you'll draw people that want to work your dream. So that's what I've drawn now. I mean, I got people from all over the world trying to move to where I live to try to work my dream. So that's my point on that.
No, trust me, I want to help your dream out too. It's funny that you say that because so in my software investment, I'm always good at making money. I finally invested all in software. My business partner, we built his software first, which is one that's not cash flowing right now. So I'm going to have a lead generation software named PostFlow one day because I know how to do it. I'm very good at all that. But it's funny because with Brad Earners, it's his software. So when he said that, I'm like, hey, I'm on path right now. And I've learned so much by helping him build his dream, you know? So that's huge. But how great was 10X, by the way?
I mean, it was phenomenal. But you got to see what Grant and Elena did and their team by putting themselves out there, because it's risky business. Even how famous they are, it's risky. You got to put a lot of money out. People can cancel at the last minute. The celebrities they had were just at a whole other level. Yeah. But those guys could have canceled. So it's all really risky business. So the fact that they have pulled it off 4 times successfully, and we'll do it again next year, is a big deal. And so I really like them. You know, they're personal friends of mine, and I like them a lot. Okay, number 2. So my second thing is, you talked about relationships.
Yeah.
So in a relationship, here's what I say. The healthier you are, you're then going to draw a healthier person.
I like that.
If you are super unhealthy, you are going to look for unhealthy people, and you're going to draw unhealthy people, because like attracts like. So work on yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, socially, financially, your job. Work on yourself, and it'll be weird. You'll start drawing people, and it won't even be sometimes about this, or you got a 6-pack or an 8-pack like he does. But they'll be drawn to like your essence, your aura. Like some of the most powerful women I know are not like aesthetically like they're not like models, but they're super attractive because they're just like healthy.
Yeah.
Same with a lot of powerful men that I know.
Yeah.
They may not have like the looks of a certain type of movie star, but they draw people because they're healthy.
Yeah.
So become a healthy person, and then don't be afraid to go to coffee with somebody or go to lunch with somebody. Just do it as friends. Be a friend first and just dialogue with somebody. Don't take everything so serious.
That's great advice right there. Because actually, one of our common friends, who's actually one of Elena's best friends, is this girl, Bobby Awad. You know Bobby, right?
Yep.
And she actually, it's funny, I didn't look at anything of her. She's a 10X girl. It's funny when you started attracting success, you started attracting people where she actually gave me valuable advice, where she was actually like thinking so much more and helping me out. That's, I think, how we got the Elena interview so soon, you know? But she's been really good at helping me. And one thing I even noticed too in life, right now, like I'm so still working on myself. I don't want to meet the girl right now. I still want to keep working, you know? And in that, like, I noticed when you kind of do that, you start attracting better people around. How since I got you on this thing, you know?
Yeah, but I like what you're saying, and Elena's great, and Bobby's great. They're two smart ladies, and so see the type of woman at that level and that standard, and they both are extremely classy, and just set your standards high. But the thing is, again, this is for women or for men, is that like attracts like. So be good at what you're good at. Do the best you can. Keep your car clean. Keep your room clean. Keep your closet clean. Be like a together person, and you'll draw a together person. It's just the way it works.
Yeah, that's wisdom, because when I was in my 20s, I was attracting messes because I was a mess in my 20s, you know? So it makes a lot of sense, you know? All right. When you were young, did you feel that you'd be here now doing all this and speaking and helping people? When you were in Compton?
I knew I was going to do well at changing people's lives.
Yeah.
So that's I knew I'd do well at that. I thought I was going to do it more in the inner cities. That's what I wanted to do. So to live this kind of life, no, I didn't see it coming. But I would say that by the grace of God, it's been pretty cool. I'm riding, as I told a guy recently, I'm riding a big giant North Shore wave, and so by the grace of God, yeah, that's how I see it.
All right, so that leads into this question, because you said inner cities. I used to teach at the school that I told you, and Grant actually told me, as entrepreneurs, chart book group, yeah, you're not going to change the education system. So I've aligned myself with powerful people. Dan Fleischman, he's going to be on here. Manny Lopez, who's that? Caleb Maddox, all these guys who want to change the education system. I actually even talked to Floyd Mayweather at the 10X thing, and people always ask me, Jeff, what are you saying to all these guys, how they're listening to you? And I said to him, because personally, I respect Floyd for all he's done, but I rooted against him in all his fights. So I was pretty disappointed all the time, even though he's a brighter guy and he knows not to get hit. But I said to him, when Grant was up there interviewing him, I said to him, Grant asked him one thing, and I saw his heart change, how crabs in a bucket, he wishes he could help people. So I grabbed his hand, you see it on my Instagram, and I said to him, people always asking, so I'm unveiling it in this one. I said to him, hey, Grant, and I pointed to Grant, I said, Grant said, if I can change the education system, I might need your help to do it. You got me? And he said, you bet. So what's your change that you think we can do in the education system? One change.
Okay. So this will be my final answer, because I got to go from one place to the other, but I'm enjoying this conversation.
Yeah.
So I think that the changing of the education system is already happening. You look at guys like Andre Agassi, what he's done in Las Vegas, creating an academy. You look at what LeBron James has done in Ohio, creating an academy. there are different people who think beyond the box, who are already changing the system and the way it's being done. Also, young people are demanding that the system be changed because they're not loving what's being taught at school. And it sounds like Charlie Brown's parents, like want, and they're not listening. But we're finding that on their own, they're like learning all kinds of amazing stuff. So when I talk to like 13, 14, and 15-year-olds, they think they could take the planet over. I just spoke at a school that it's an all-boys school in a very wealthy part in the East Coast. And they say it's the number one private school for boys in America. It's a bunch of wealthy kids. And when I met with a lot of them in small groups, because I did the big group, and then I met with 3 different groups of small groups, they basically were saying, hey, old people, get out of our way. We got next. But they were equipping themselves. So the system is changing. And if you don't like the way it is exactly, the great thing is, watch. You could take master classes on YouTube. You could watch TED Talks. You could watch your podcast. You could join the Tim Story World Shakers Network every Monday at 4 Pacific time. There's a lot of things you could do. So it's a new day. I think it's changing already.
Well, and I thank you for being a part of the change with World Shakers. I didn't give a shout to that. World Shakers every Monday. He is a World Shaker. He's Tim Story. Thank you for your time. We'll do this again in person when we go again. I'm sure this isn't the last you'll see of me. All right.
Yeah. Listen, I'm enjoying you, and thanks for bringing so much wisdom and content, and bringing on the caliber of guests that you're getting. That's a big deal. So keep on following him. He's bringing in some people that are bringing in a lot of value that will change your life.
Awesome. Tim Story. Good. Tim Story Official on Instagram. That's the best place to really follow you, or where? Tim Story, what is it, .com?
Yeah, you got timstory.com, STOREY, then you got Tim Story Official.
By the way, I have to say this. You're the one person I haven't spelled your last name wrong ever. And I know people have done it. Brad Lee, I spelled wrong all the time. And he's yelling, it's Lee, it doesn't T. So I got to say, we already have that connection. I didn't even get your name wrong once. So,
love it.
Awesome. All right, Tim, go do what you got to do. I actually got to get to work and hit the phones because I'm not at your level yet, man. But I'll never be at my own level. So have a blessed day. All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you so much for watching. My biggest takeaways, the 3 biggest takeaways from the Tim Story interview was exactly that. Don't mention other people's names. Like, as clear as it is, when I asked him about, hey, who are some of the impact idols you are, he said he learns from everybody, right? And I took that with me where I started learning from everybody. If I was in an Uber ride, I think Tim tuned into one of my lives and I was listening to Uber driver who was married longer than half the entrepreneurs I was hanging out with, right? And he had advice that I got there. And I would listen to certain advice from just not one source, okay? There was a lot of times I got so caught up of it just has to be this source, and you can really learn from anybody. The second thing I'll say is that when I brought up some of the names he worked with, okay, which were he's worked with, and I'll say it now, Robert Downey Jr., all these big names, he didn't want to know. He's like, no, because everybody's special. So in the same sense, he didn't want to brag about certain things. And, there's a time you could. He was like, no, don't even do it. The third thing is, man, even though he's out of Compton, he acted like there was nothing about it. Compton is kind of like where I used to where I used to teach, over in New Britain or Hartford, Connecticut. I used to teach in schools there. I was a substitute teacher. And it was really the transition of me leaving teaching, being like, man, can I do coaching and mentorship going forward, right? Because I was having such a way to connect with people, and you were seeing a mind shift on that. And the Tim Story was the first guy to publicly believe in me. If we kept it in, if not, you can go search Tim Story, Jeff the Entrepreneur on my other main channel. And he publicly believed in me, which changed everything because I didn't want to let him down. And since then, we've connected at certain Epic Talks events here. Maybe once these events get bigger here, we'll have him come and share at one of these events. And maybe we'll do a longer podcast interview. I think one of the coolest things about To Make More Money podcast was people who'd wave it off, right? We had Elena Cardone, we remixed. She waved it off. No, we can go later, right? I know, who was it? Logan Paul. or no, I think it was Andrew Schultz had Trump on, and they waved it off so Trump could say a lot longer. It's the whole deal with the podcast. So listen, on myself, we're going to be launching a bunch more Make More Money podcasts. So click the like, click the bell. Every week we'll be putting out a new, whether it's a brand new episode of a new rising entrepreneur or it's a new legendary invite. You're not going to want to miss these interviews. All right. And I'll see you guys soon.